Welcome back to the Rock Your Dream Body and Dream Life interview series. Today I have a very special interview for you with Roy Nelson of Roy Nelson Healing. He is the author of the book Love Notes from Hell, and today we talked about his amazing transformation story of overcoming addiction and losing 120 pounds. He's been working with people here in LA and Brentwood specifically in his practice, but his message just really opens the doors and shines some light, hopefully for all of you. If you are dealing with addiction like food addiction, emotional eating, or even something more serious, although he would tell you that all addictions are the same, whether you're dealing with food addiction, alcohol addiction, drugs, anything, it's all really just the symptom. And so we dive deep into a lot of the different topics related to addiction, how to heal it, how to take those first steps. And I really think that you're going to absolutely love this interview. Okay, welcome, Roy. I am so excited to begin this conversation with you. I feel like, as we were kind of talking about before we started the recording, our paths have crossed several times in different ways. And so it's so perfect that we're now coming together to talk about addiction and emotional eating, and something that I feel like is a topic that so many people deal with in their lives in one way or another, but it's kind of like this mask or this thing that most of us cover up and pretend, we don't have issues with. And it's kind of like that like stepchild that we put in the corner and just really don't pay attention to. And so I love shining light on this and really, on those dark places and helping people to understand that they're not alone. And I know that this is the work that you do. So first, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I sure appreciate it. Very nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise. And I think, go ahead.
No, I said to see you and to be here with you. I really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you so much. I think a great place for us to start would be with your story. I know in your book, Love Notes from Hell, you talk about your transformation story. And so I think, just to kind of give the listeners a little bit more perspective on where you've come from and where you are now, that's a good place for us to begin.
Okay, sure. Be happy to. Well, I often say I almost died at birth, and then I kind of went downhill from there, okay? So that gives you an idea.
Yeah.
Actually, I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, and I was choking, and I was born at home in Texas, and we were very poor. My family was very poor, didn't have a lot of money, so no time for hospitals. The doctor wasn't even there. There was a midwife there, but the doctor showed up after a while. But but the thing is, I was born into a really tough place with some really tough people in tough circumstances, and I wasn't very tough. I was in over my head from the very beginning. I was very sensitive, fearful little guy. And so I just, I violence and poverty and all that goes with it, and raging alcoholic father and all that. But ultimately, I worked from the time I was a little kid, always looking at making my own money, buying my own clothes, stuff like that, which I'm not complaining. None of this is complaining. I'm happy everything happened the way it happened. But ultimately, I had to grow up really fast. And, I left home when I was 14. I was in the Army the day I was 17. I was married when I was 20. Before I was 23 years old, I was the father of 4. So, I'm just in over my head always. And, as a young kid, I did every kind of a job you can imagine. And then once I was about 13, I started working in restaurants and clubs and things like that. And of course and then other work later, but I was always working with older people, and so I had to grow up really fast, and I wasn't emotionally equipped. I grew up physically, maybe intellectually, chronologically, but emotionally, I had no development. I was, and I used something. From the very time I was in the very beginning, I was using something to medicate my feelings because life was way too much for me. And obviously, it starts with fantasy. And then as soon as you find your private parts, it starts with masturbation, then it begins, then it's food, and then it's cigarettes, and then it's, I didn't drink until I was in the Army, very little until I was in the Army, but then I warmed up to that pretty quickly. So, it's really, this is a condition that's passed from generation to generation to generation. It's nobody's fault. Nobody intentionally poisoned me with this mindset. It's just that they were in a lot of pain. The important thing to understand about addictions, every addiction has three components. It's a painkiller, it's a form of escape, it's a form of punishment. Now, as long as I had the pain deep in my soul, I was always going to crave a painkiller of one sort or another. Food is a great painkiller.
Yeah.
As long as I had the fear, and largely fear of my own feelings, obviously fear of a lot of things, but largely fear of what I was feeling, then I would look for escape. And as long as I had the guilt and the remorse and the self-hatred, I would always be requiring punishment.
Yeah.
So every addiction has those three components. So I was using something and hating myself for it forever. And so then after I got out of the Army when I was 24, then it was about making money. Then it was about how much money I could make and how much, this. And I knew if I had this car or that car or this house or that house, or if I bought that for my wife, she'd love me more, blah, 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 blah. She didn't, by the way. But always something outside of myself that was going to do it for me. And so I may have started making the rounds as psychiatrist by the time I was 28 years old for the panic attacks and for the crippling phobias and that type of thing. And then one of my doctors he couldn't really get anywhere. I was so shut down emotionally, couldn't get anywhere with me. So he had the idea that if he would inject me with a truth serum, an IV sodium pentothal, maybe he could get somewhere with it, help me get to something. And all it had me drunk at 9 o'clock in the morning in his office, dancing with his receptionist. So I mean, you didn't get any truth out of me
because you had built up these walls that were so thick.
Absolutely. Oh my God, I was so shut down, and I many times, I suffered from severe anxiety and panic attacks for a number of years. I went to the doctors for about 4.5 years. Ultimately what I actually did is after that, I said, well, maybe I could hire a nurse and he could train her to give me IVs and I'd have legal drugs, right? In case I have a panic attack, I could have a nurse with me. She'd give me IV. Well, so the thing is, you can't give sodium pentothal on an airplane because if your heart stops, they can't call the fire department. So they use Valium in airplane. But we never used, she practiced, we hired 2 nurses so each one would be available at some point if I need her. And we never used any of that stuff when we were traveling. Alcohol was a much better drug.
Right.
By mouth than sodium pentothal or Valium IV.
So you actually went to the point where you hired nurses to be able to be with you to administer these different things so that you wouldn't have to feel, really, right?
Right, yeah. Sometimes the doctor, we were drinking buddies also. Sometimes I'd take the doctor with me and sometimes I'd hire a nurse to go. So anyway, but I'm a hopeless, see, what I'm trying to share here, and people don't need to relate to the doctors or the nurses or the IVs. I'm a hopeless case. And I've been healed by the very means that I use to help other people heal. So what I'm trying to say to you, I'm a product of my product. I'm never talking theory, I'm talking practical experience.
And a very extreme case.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
So what was your turning point? What was it for you that finally made you ready to start peeling back those layers?
Well, I grew, and like I said, I did the therapy thing for about 4.5 years, and I learned a lot of good things intellectually about the subconscious mind, and I learned a lot of good things intellectually, but I didn't learn how to feel differently about myself. So many times out, and I grew up in crazy religious insanity in Texas, okay? So, by the time I was growing up, I realized there's no God. There's no God. I mean, clearly there's no God. And then, so I went as far as I could in the opposite direction. And then my best hope is that there's no God, because if there is a God and it's anything like that God I heard about, I'm in serious trouble. So anyway, but when you're out there dying, I think, man, many times I thought how comforting it would be. Only I could be stupid enough to believe in God. But I was way too smart, way too smart. I knew there was no God. I knew it was somebody cooked up to manipulate each other with. When you're dying, my friend Sheila, when you're dying, you become open to things you wouldn't otherwise be open to.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dying, you get real stupid, and that's what happened for me. I got real stupid. Some people were running a religious campaign of some sort. I don't know who they were, but they had either advertising. And one day I called them, just out of desperation, and they sent me a little pamphlet in the mail. I didn't think much of it until one night when the demons were at my throat. I picked up the little pamphlet, and it said, even if you don't believe in God, if you ask God for help, you'll get the help anyway. If you can picture a big old 275-pound baby rolling out of his bed onto his knees, crying out to a God he didn't believe in, that was me.
Yeah.
And that was, go ahead.
It's rock bottom, right? Like it was desperation. It was, okay, it's finally too uncomfortable to continue doing what I've been doing than to do something different.
Absolutely. So I had a peace that came over me that night like I'd never experienced before in my life. And of course, that was only a beginning, but the first miracle I experienced, I was able to get back in the bed, go to sleep, and sleep peacefully. And that to me was a miracle, because I was having all kinds of crazy, terrible, what Christian calls awfulizing, thinking about all the things that were going to happen to me when they caught up with me, thinking I was so bad. And so that was the beginning. And my process, frankly, that was in December of 1976. So my process for the next 40 years has been unlearning.
Mm-hmm.
Basically defragging the master computer. But people need to understand the entire problem is in the soul, the psyche, what we nowadays call the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Master computer.
Yeah.
And that, it doesn't matter what you think you believe intellectually, what you think you believe in your peewee little mind up here, it's what you really believe in your heart. As the famous carpenter said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Mm-hmm.
So what my process has been about is unlearning, defragging, unlearning, excavating my soul.
I love that you're talking about it like it's as if it's a computer, like our brain is a computer. And I always say like it is about like reprogramming your brain. And we have all these like minimized programs that are just running in the background, and they're screwing things up, and we don't even know that they're there until we start to become aware. And that's when we can start removing them or replacing them with different beliefs.
Well, yes, it's so absolutely true, Sheila. The thing is, so many people are out there looking for the truth. And my experience is you don't need to go looking for the truth. What you need to do is face down the untruth. Face down the myth.
Yeah.
The truth will be in your face.
Yeah.
The truth is not lost. It's just we're fettered with all these crazy ideas that nobody intentionally poisoned me with faulty data.
Mm-hmm.
But from conception, we're gathering data. I personally believe I brought baggage with me from previous lives, but leaving that aside, if people don't relate to that, that's fine. From conception, we're gathering data.
We're like a sponge.
Precisely.
To our environment.
No filter, no discerning capability. It goes right into the master computer as the absolute gospel. And nobody's intentionally poisoning me with faulty data, but being a family condition that it is, they were applying me with their fears and their prejudices and their ideas, and they meant well. Nobody was trying to make me, make me suffer, but it's just I was loaded down with so much faulty data, and then of course based on the faulty data, I formulated my core beliefs.
Yeah.
And then of course based on the core beliefs, I formulate my philosophy for living. That is my way of navigating my way through this hostile world I perceive myself to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, based on my philosophy, I create my life.
Yeah.
All based on a faulty foundation, then I got to start using stuff to try to cope with life.
I love that point. So, I mean, there's so many things that you just said there. Like, number one, that, they're really like our environment, the people around us are doing the best that they could at the time, right? Like it wasn't like a lot of people walk around sort of carrying the story of being a victim, like this happened to me. But really it's like, when we become aware of it, we all kind of have some sort of story. Yours is very extreme, but we all kind of have those sort of different things that happened to us as we were growing up. And so we have the power right now to begin changing that and writing a new story, writing a new program, right?
So true. Well, the thing is, as long as I walked around with that victim stamp on my forehead, I just kept on attracting people to victimize me.
Yes. It's a mirror. It always really is, isn't it? So would you say that, I know, you talked about many different types of addictions. Would you say that, can we sort of group addictions together, whether it's food or shopping or gambling or sex or drugs? Are they all similar in the sense that it's all really just a coping mechanism, or what would be your explanation of that?
Well, they're all symptoms, and then many of them are symptoms of symptoms. Many people, in fact, many women back in the day started before they knew as much as they do now. As far as medical and the aspects of smoking, many women started smoking to control their eating, control weight. Okay, obviously that's insanity, but that's many doctors back in the 40s and 50s would tell women to start smoking.
Wow, isn't that funny?
Yeah, and it's true, and they didn't know, and nobody's trying to kill anybody. It's and they're actually trying to be helpful, and then of course diet pills, and next thing you know, they're strung out on speed, and it just And again, I'm superior to nobody, so I don't ever mean to be talking from any hilltop or anything like that. I'm just saying that, this anybody that survives this human condition, man, I tell you, they got
nobody really survives, right?
That's what I mean. We start off this process knowing we're going to die, right? So, but quality of life is really what we're all going to drop to space soon. I mean, clearly, but my experience is the lessons we learn. In fact, I believe this level of existence is literally a school, a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Because here we have training aids and opportunities to learn and grow and develop that we wouldn't have on a purely ethereal level. Here we have all kinds of, things that we have to deal with on a daily, regular, ongoing basis that cause us to refine and grow and develop.
Yeah.
So, but my experience is whatever we learn here, first off, we can share, and then beyond that, as you're doing, obviously, and I try to do, then beyond that, we get to take it with us for all of eternity. That's a long time.
So basically what you're saying, and this is kind of what I talk about too, like imagine as if like we take life so seriously, we think that, we're supposed to just sort of like follow the rules and we have responsibilities and everything. But at the end of the day, like if you go really, really broad spectrum, it really is as if life is a video game. And this time around, whether you believe in multiple, past lives, multiple lives or not, like at the end of the day, it really is a game in the sense that like, what is it, like when you really decide what is this really all about, it truly is about expansion and joy and experiencing whatever experience it is that you have chosen to experience. And so I know that this is very like spiritual, what we're talking about here, but I think it's so helpful for people to understand that so that they can see that addiction or, challenges and even really traumatic situations like what you went through are really just there to help show us what we're really made of. If we can look at that silver lining, it can be this actual gift.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Sheila, I am very grateful for all the adversity I've experienced in my life. because if I'd had nothing or nobody to provoke me, I'd had no occasion to grow.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is actually a condition for anyone who is suffering. It's really important to know. And of course, what we're offering here is opportunity. And like every opportunity, is what each person decides to do with the opportunity that'll determine what they derive from it. But what's important to understand is this is a condition. I call it a condition because it really doesn't matter what the addiction is. Here we're talking about obviously the food addiction, but it doesn't really matter what you even call that. Most people who are addicted don't want to believe they're addicted, and that's fine too. So whatever you like to call it, neither here nor there, but it literally is a condition that can cause you to become better than you ever would have been if you hadn't had it. Mm-hmm. That's the magic of it. That's unbelievable. And the fact that people come to me from all over the place, and that they can, from the time they sit with me for the first time, their cravings fall away, that they effortlessly lose all their excess weight, and that I get to be a part of that. Yeah. I'm just along for the ride, but my sweet spirit working through me, obviously touching the sweet spirit within them, help them calm down enough so they don't need the excess food. But can you imagine just being a witness to that, man? Whoa.
Yeah. I've experienced that as well. And I understand. So that's like where you say in the book, I think the quote is, your strength will be your greatest weakness and your weakness will be your greatest strength.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. When you show yourself how powerful you are by, moving through these different challenges and then, truly rocking it and showing yourself that like effortless weight loss is possible for you, which for most people is like, I can't even understand what that would be like. But once you get there.
Neither could I. I was 275 pounds. How on earth could I ever be any different from that?
So let's talk about that. I would love to kind of dive further into your journey of what that was like to experience effortless weight loss and to really move through, your food addiction and release that addiction and get to this place where you are now. Can you kind of walk us through the steps of what that looked like?
Well, sure. Well, initially, I couldn't imagine being able to eat any differently than I ate. I didn't even consider myself an overeater, even though I was morbidly obese. But see, the truth be known, Sheila, I was morbidly obese and I was starving to death. You know what I mean? I was so starving. And I had people, a beautiful lady, beautiful wife. I mean, I had people, but I didn't feel connected. So
you were starving for love. You were starving for
love. Exactly. And of course, I always thought it was about getting people to love me. Of course, I did all kinds of people-pleasing stuff to try to get them to love me. I didn't realize that it was going to be the love in my heart that would make me free. So what I'm talking about, really, what my process is about, is really helping people excavate everything that isn't love. So that, because instead of being driven by selfishness and fear and all that, trying to prove to the world that I'm worthwhile and I'm somebody and blah, 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 it's just really letting go of everything that isn't love.
Is it always about worthiness? Because I feel like for the majority of the people that I work with, it usually goes to that root limiting belief of I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough.
Well, see, and what's worse than that, Sheila, people like me who would try to compensate for that. Now, I'm not only as good as you, I'm actually better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Many egomaniacs are that way. That basically, we compensate for how badly we feel about ourselves by trying to prove that we actually feel extra good about ourselves, which is a complete lie. But the problem is, you can't ever get over it until you face it honestly. So what I'm about helping people feel safe enough. Here's three little things that might be beneficial to somebody. Feel, deal, and heal.
Feel, deal, and heal.
Face it, embrace it, erase it.
So it's forgiveness.
We name it, we claim it, we tame it.
Tame it, that's the last one. Name it, claim it, tame it.
Yeah. See, this is the process. We can't get over anything unless we face it honestly. But see, the thing is people, I wasn't a bad person because I couldn't face anything. It's just I was terrified. I didn't think there was any way of overcoming anything. So I just did the best I could, pretending it wasn't there. But the important thing is, if a person is overeating or is using food as a medication, as I was, then there's something inside that you're medicating. And it's not any big deal. My experience is none of it's any big deal as long as you're willing to face it honestly. There's not one single feeling anybody could ever have if they were, with my help and God's grace, if they were able to face it honestly, it couldn't be overcome. It doesn't matter what it is. It really doesn't matter how, nothing. They're just feelings.
Yeah.
But nobody's ever going to die from feeling their feelings, even though we think we will, because many of these things were brought. We got the idea. First off, many of us had early childhood experiences that were too much for us to cope with, and so basically we buried it. We buried the feelings, and then of course, anytime, and as we're continuing to grow, anytime we'd come near those feelings, we use something to bury it further, to bury it further. Consequently, we reinforce the idea that it's too much, no, I can't, it'll kill me. So we're running as fast as we can from our feelings, and they're nipping at our tail end, and we think, man, if they ever catch me, they're going to kill me. But the truth be known, when you turn it and face it, it dissipates.
That's the thing. I think most people bump up against the fear and then they run away, but it's almost like they're more scared of the fear itself than what actually like that thing is that they think they're scared of, right? It's like, oh no, fear, and then I've got to numb it.
That's a beautiful point, Sheila, because see, that was me with the panic attacks. And once you've had a panic attack, it is so terrible, you don't ever want to have another one. So you want to do anything you have to do. That's why I hired the nurses. Hey, I could have taken any kind of pill by mouth, but it takes 20 minutes to get it to I needed immediate. That's why I needed an IV.
Yeah.
I needed a drink. In other words, because when you've had panic attacks and extreme phobias and severe anxiety, you want to do anything you can to not have to feel that again. And that's what I was about. Running.
So what would you suggest for the person who is like, I know I have this stuff, like I know I have these emotions and I know that I have been using food to comfort myself, or, even other things, maybe it's shopping, maybe it's alcohol, depending on the situation. What's the first step for moving through those feelings and not being so scared of like being emotional or, doing the things that we need to do that will ultimately get us to where we want to go?
Well, my experience is that there's no easy, quick fix. In other words, my experience is it requires a total transformation. Okay, in other words, the person I was would always have the problems I had. It doesn't mean I was a bad person. I'm not suggesting anybody else is. It's just that, basically just that. My experience is, and that's why I do the work I do, because a lot of people go seeking relief from their symptoms. Most addictions, most addict people, I call them addicts, whatever you call them, doesn't matter. But most people with this condition, if the alcoholics think alcohol is their problem, drug addicts think drugs are their problem, sex addicts think sex is their problem, food addicts think food is their problem, and blah, goes on and on and on. Work. But the truth known, none of those things are the problem. Those are all symptoms. Those are all things that we're using. Of course, many of the people who wound up obese started off as anorexia. Started off anorexia, and they lost control of that, so they become bulimic, and they lose control of that, and they become obese, and they tell themselves that they've overcome an eating disorder, even though they're 50 pounds overweight, whatever it is. Again, I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying the insidiousness, the dishonesty.
Yeah.
And see, so the first first thing about for overcoming any of it is to face the fact that you have it, right? Whatever it is, because even what you think the problem is not the problem. You know, the problem is deeper. So, you know, a person could, you might want to, first off, they could go to my website. They could check out, there's a quiz on there it's roynelsonhealing.com/quiz. Are you a food addict or are you an emotional eater? So that might help somebody determine whether they perhaps are one of us.
Mm-hmm. So you see those as two different things?
No, but people call them different things.
Okay.
You know, whatever you can buy into, right? You know, it's you know, oh my God, I was morbidly obese, or completely dependent on alcohol, smoked cigarettes, drove big cars, chased fast women, but I didn't want to make believe I had any addiction, right? I mean, I was one big walking addiction, you know. But you know, because it's what are you going to do? You know, I mean, you couldn't imagine. See, I couldn't imagine not having those things.
Yeah.
Right, I had to have them, you know, and I mean, the last several years I used alcohol as a medication because, you know, I had to have alcohol, and my primary concern on a daily basis, and I drove while drinking many times, my primary concern on a daily basis was to avoid capture because I couldn't afford to get locked up someplace where they didn't serve alcohol, right? You know what I mean? So my point, but again, I'm not an alcoholic, you know what I mean? You know, because of preconceived ideas. Once again, old, faulty data.
Well, just jumping back in, I think that people can become addicted to more than just like the normal things too, like not just food, not just alcohol and things, but I actually believe that a lot of people are addicted to being busy. You know, addicted to chasing success.
Run till your daddy takes the T-bird away, right?
Yeah. It's almost like we trick ourselves into thinking that we're doing something that's very good, but you know, that's good for us in the long term, that will create success, that will allow us to feel the way that we want to feel, when in reality what we're doing is just, again, in another way, numbing out and distracting ourselves from feeling our feelings.
It's exactly the truth. You're exactly, absolutely correct. You know, I'm preaching to the choir here, obviously, you know, all these things, but it's exactly true. I mean, whatever we're doing, we're doing ourselves a disservice by running from ourselves.
Yeah.
The fact is, we're pretty good people, but the idea that we're not causes us to run. And nobody has just one addiction. And, you know, it's nobody has just one. And the problem with trying to treat any addiction is you take that away. One kid I worked with was a Coast Guard officer. He said, "Yeah, Roy," he said, "it's like trying to hold a dozen beach balls underwater. You know, you get two of them under the water, and the rest of them pop. You know, you can't fighting an obsession, fighting an addiction, if you will, fighting a compulsion. It's really a hopeless endeavor."
So the solution or the path to healing is truly facing it, you know, being honest with yourself that you do have this addiction or this pattern, this habit of behavior. And then what would be, I know you I'm sure go into more detail on your website, and there's lots of places where people can find out more about, you know, it's always a much longer process. Like you said, it's not a quick fix.
Well, the important thing to understand, the addiction can be removed immediately. When people come to me, the addiction falls away immediately, all their addictions, but the important thing, the addiction is there to drive you to get help. Right? Yeah. I mean, so once you're here, you don't need it anymore. You've already decided you're going to come and get help, you know. So, but anyway, the quiz is one thing. The book could be helpful to someone, helping a person better understand. It's easy to read as little vignettes, and it's easy to, you know, that might be helpful to someone. On my website, I have testimonials of people from every imaginable background. One thing I need to make clear, I do not broadcast the names or images of people I work with. A lot of people, it's just that a few people wanted to be a part of the outreach.
Yeah.
So they wanted to be videoed, and so don't worry about it. If you come here, you're not going to get videoed unless you want.
I have that as well. I have a lot of clients who this is very personal, so they don't want to share openly. They don't want to, talk about it publicly. But I think, and again, that's why I'm doing this interview with you and speaking with you, because I think it's so important for us to see that we're not alone. Yeah. In fact, and not even just that we're not alone, but that there are so many people who have had really extreme circumstances like yours, and I'm sure many of the people, the testimonials are things that they will be able to see on your website that have come to this place of healing. And I think the other part of it too is that you talk about this, like sometimes we relapse, and so I'd love to hear your thoughts on like, what does a relapse mean? Does it mean you're a failure? What is the path if something was to happen like that for someone?
Well, the important thing to understand that there's no cure. This is a state of consciousness and a genetic predisposition. There's no cure, but you can be healed. But my experience is you got to keep going.
Mm-hmm. You got to use the tools.
One kid said last year's honesty is this year's bullshit. You know what I mean? You can't. It's like any obsession. What turned you on last week is going to be boring this week, right? So you got to keep going. The same way with a spiritual recovery and spiritual healing, to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And the biggest aspect of it is coming to realize that you're not a big deal. I'm not speaking to you, Sheila, but I'm talking about anybody that might hear, you're not a big deal, right? The big deal is thinking you're a big deal, right? And so, and ultimately it's not about me. It's not about what I can get, it's about what I can give. There was a man, they thought him mad. The more he gave, the more he had. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a good number of years looking for people who could help me, and I got some help. But where I've really gotten the help is when I started trying to help other people.
I've heard that a lot. Yeah, that through healing, through supporting others in healing, we essentially end up healing ourselves.
Absolutely. I've learned so much and benefited so much. Tricia came to me for help about 29. You heard me speak about 29 years ago. She came to me for help about 28 years ago. And none of the stuff I would be doing, I wouldn't have a book, I wouldn't have a website, I wouldn't be talking to you. I mean, so much has come to me on account of everything that's good in my life has come to me from trying to help other people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Trisha's your wife, for the people that don't know. She's someone that's a big part of your business. Yeah.
Precisely. In fact, she's the one that made it into a business. I would just, I'm just, just taking referrals here and there. I mean, I was trying to be helpful to people, and that's how she met me. And she came to me for help, and then she's, basically she's made it possible for so many people to get help. So many people have come to me through having heard her speak, or read something she wrote, or some interview she had done. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
many people. Yeah, in fact, it's just amazing how it works. One of the girls, one came to me. She was a psychologist, and she was a graduate of this particular university in Boston. And they were having an alumni event, and she asked Tricia to come and speak at it. And another girl that was there, another woman was there. Was their alum. And anyway, she's lost 100 pounds and has gotten over depression and anxiety and panic attacks. So, you can never figure this deal out. I mean, it's just, you just go forward doing the best you can, and but there's definitely help available. That's the important thing I think people need to know, is that, because I didn't think there was any hope for me. I'd done everything I knew how to do. I didn't consider myself to have any addictions, even though I was morbidly obese and all the other things. But I knew I was having panic attacks. I knew I was having, anxiety and that type. That's what I was looking for relief from. Mm-hmm. But, the thing is, it takes, you start from where you are. We all have to start from where we are, and then, and ultimately there's nothing that can't be overcome through. I'm telling you, when I want to qualify this too, I think it's important for a lot of us have religious insanity from our childhood. When I talk about God, I'm talking about that sweet spirit that resides deep within each of you. Mm-hmm. deep within you, and that's what can heal you.
Yeah.
What I'm about is helping people get in touch with that sweet spirit, helping them to feel safe enough to face the stuff that's blocking them from their higher self, if you will. That's, in other words, as long as my higher self, as long as my lower self was leading me, I was headed for destruction. But when I can tap into the higher self and appeal to the higher authority, that's where freedom can come. So it's there for everybody, and it's possible that there's nobody who can't be healed.
It's so true. I mean, the saying from the Bible, a quote from the Bible, the kingdom of heaven is within, like that, we all have that power within us. And whether you call it God, spirit, higher power, source energy,
absolutely,
universe, it's all the same.
Every one of us is a little piece of God.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
So I have a question for you about a term that's been used quite a bit, that this highly sensitive people, HSP. Do you believe that there are certain people that are very emotionally sensitive? Like you mentioned that yourself was very sensitive, and those are the types of people who then develop, addictive patterns? Or do you believe that like most every person has some sort of addiction in their life?
Well, see, both. Because, see, the thing is, highly sensitive people like me, we hurt very deeply. We hate very deeply. We love very deeply. We feel very, very deeply. And, the thing is, I've had as much guilt and remorse, self-hatred over things I've thought or felt as I have over things I've actually done. Now, I've done plenty, don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not making light of the things I've done, but I'm saying to you, just a thought can make me feel really bad. Mm-hmm. or a feeling towards something or someone. So, but the other thing is, see, most people are addicted to something. It doesn't bother them to the same degree that it bothers people like me.
Got it.
And yeah. I made believe it didn't bother me. Oh no, I don't mind being 100 pounds, 200 pounds over, whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's all a lie. But for me, it was a lie. Some people seem to be fine with whatever it is, and that's fine. We're not here to inflict anybody or to indict anybody, right? If you're happy with the way it is, then God bless you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the ones. There's got to be somebody out there like me, Sheila, who would give everything everything they ever hoped to own for what's been given to me. And see, I thought I was going to die out there. I'd done everything I knew how to do. Mm-hmm. I don't mean about the addictions. I didn't even have any addictions, okay? But I had panic attacks.
Yeah.
I hated myself, but the guilt, that's what really brought me to my knees, was the guilt.
That was your rock bottom, was that feeling of guilt and shame.
Yeah, the guilt and the shame. See, I could treat the panic attacks with liquor and pills and food and sex and whatever. I could treat the anxiety, but once the guilt set in, there was nothing. In fact, everything just made it worse.
Yeah.
Everything I used that would previously make the panic attacks better made the guilt worse. And so there I was, thinking I was the absolute worst person who had ever lived. Absolutely the scum of the earth. I had no idea. I thought it was so bad. Truth is, I was a baby, but I thought I was so bad.
It's almost like the feeling of like hopeless disappointment in yourself is like the worst feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew nobody would understand. I was going to 2 doctors at the end, 2 therapists, if you will. One was a psychologist and another one was a medical doctor. I couldn't talk to either one of them about what was really going on inside of me.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't understand. They had me locked up from first place. But, just thinking I was so bad.
Yeah, and I think, everything that you've talked about today, I think it's going to be so helpful for people in understanding food addiction or emotional eating, patterns in their life, but then also understanding others in their life too, or themselves, like if they have had other addictive patterns. I know a lot of my clients have people in their lives who, have someone else close to them that's dealing with some sort of addiction. And I think hearing your story is so beneficial, and obviously we're going to send them the information on where to find your book and your website and so forth for further information. But I'd love to ask you one final question, and that is, what is the question that you wish people would ask you in interviews that they don't ask?
I haven't thought about it. I don't know, but for me, it's just so important to address one of the things you just mentioned. If you don't mind for a minute here.
Mm-hmm.
And usually where there's an emotional eater, they're very attracted to alcoholics, or alcoholics are attracted to emotional eaters, or drug addicts. In other words, usually there's if there's one, you'll find the other one, and often most of us, of course, are all of the above, myself. But, there's nobody that can't be healed. That's what we know. There's nobody that can't be healed. Everything is a symptom. And I don't cure cancer and heart failure and diabetes, but we know those things are symptoms also. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm convinced more people die from what they eat than they do from what they smoke or snort or inject. I believe that because it's socially acceptable. In fact,
I think it's something even deeper than that. I feel like it's the addiction to stress. Like, people are so addicted to being stressed out that, stress is that underlying thing. And whether you're an emotional eater or you're the opposite, you're, a woman who's addicted to exercise or addicted to, obsessing over her body. Like, there's so many different ways that this can show up, but it's all this feeling of needing to prove something.
Absolutely right. In fact, Tricia used to do a talk, and that's how this one woman I told you came to me. The talk was de-stress, eat less. Mm-hmm. But that is so, you're so absolutely right. Not being okay, the idea that we're not okay as we are.
Yeah.
We're looking for something, stress.
Outside of ourselves.
You're so right.
Because that's our conditioning, right? Like, that society, advertisements, the media, like, we're so conditioned, we're constantly getting that message that, this is going to solve your problems. This is going to make you feel the way that you want to feel.
Right. And stress is such a killer. I mean, in so many ways, such a killer.
Yeah. Well, this was amazing. I really appreciate your time today, Roy. And again, just, going back to the question, is there anything that we didn't cover today that you want to share with the audience and just, leave them with to wrap up?
Just that you're not that good at being bad.
That there is hope for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying these things, I'm looking at you, I'm talking about, I don't mean you, I'm talking about,
the community. And I feel that I do represent that, because many of the things that you're talking about, that we're talking about, like, I myself have dealt with. I have, close family members who have had addictions that, have caused issues as well. So I know this stuff firsthand.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you, Angel. I so appreciate you.
Oh, well, I appreciate you likewise. And I really want to leave everyone with a way to get in touch with you. And, if they want to take this work further, if they want to get your book, what's the best way for them to find you or reach you online?
Okay, go to roynelsonhealing.com, roynelsonhealing.com. And there you'll be able to contact us by the internet, info at roynelsonhealing.com. There's also an 800 number that anybody can call, and also they might want to take the quiz, and check out the book if you like. I'm not here to sell books, but if you get a chance, you want to read the book, it'd be helpful, and so we'd love to hear from you, and we'd be very happy to hear from you, and be happy to share our experiences with you to benefit you.
Thank you. And I will put all of the links to that in the show notes for the video when we have it up on the website, so people can just click through and get to your website from there as well. So thank you again. I really love this conversation. I know we could have continued to talk probably for hours, but I feel like this was such a great look into addiction and really helping to, like, you know, remove the mask that I think a lot of people wear. And so I really just want to honor you for the work that you're doing in this world.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you and honor you. I want to share one thing though here for anybody, anybody who may misconstrue where I'm coming from. I am a completely hopeless case. The fact that I'm even alive today, 40 years later, is a testament to a loving God, sweet spirit that is there for anyone who wants it. And there's nothing I can do enough of to earn what's been given to me. And I look at it like the farmer. The farmer got to make all the investment, he's got to do all the work, and everything he does won't guarantee him a crop. Yet if he does everything he does, if he does everything he can do, he has a pretty good chance that he'll get the crop. And if he doesn't do everything he can do, he probably won't get the crop.
Yeah. So you really just, go ahead.
Sweet spirit.
Yeah. It really is this partnership, right? It's like you take action, but it has to be inspired action. It has to be from a place of belief in something greater than just these, you know, physical bodies walking around doing stuff. It's about so much more than that.
Thank you so much for putting it that way. It's lovely.
Yeah. Thank you, Roy. All right. Take care, everyone. And I will see you all on the next interview.